Welcome to the DKM Podcast. Don't know much podcast. We're here. We don't know much about anything, but what I do know is that EA can keep eating its own words because Elden Ring just keeps popping off. Although, granted, it's not a full multiplayer game. It's like one of those games that's like half multiplayer because most of the game is just mainly a single-player thing. But the only reason I'm bringing it up, besides it being a Miyazaki game, and right, we love From Software. We love everything that they come out with, even the bad stuff. Hint, hint. There is no bad stuff. But a character, a person, a legend named
a deity
called
a new religion, if you may,
called Let Me Solar Her has been popping out in the news, and I'm pretty sure if you're listening to this podcast episode, you already know who this person is. It's just some person with dual wield swords. A katana on one hand and a blood sword on the other hand. He's level 179. I'm just going off by memory. He wears no armor, to represent the whole classic stereotype of if you are if you're in a multiplayer mode and you're wearing no armor, that means you're cracked the game because you're good. What's the point of
that? And essentially means like there's no point in wearing armor because you're never going to intend to get hit in the first place.
Right, and that's exactly the mentality everyone should have. Just don't get hit, right? And he wears a pot on his head to represent one of the characters in the games, who's a pretty cool dude, not gonna lie. So I'm not gonna say his name or anything what he does because Daniel hasn't played Elden Ring yet. But when you get to it, you'll really love him.
I'm sure I've seen him. I've seen some of the characters been spoiled to me. I know about Pope Turtle. I love Pope Turtle. He's cute.
Everyone loves him.
I know about the wolf dude that would fuck easily. No cap. Let me see. That girl that everyone keeps talking about with Hell Smash. Basically, my thing is that I'm pitching a idea to From Software. Make a dating sim based on the Soulsborne games. I think it would sell. Maybe make it like a thing where like you make the wrong choice and you die and you can't like reset until you go back all the way back to the first date. Just saying.
Pretty good. I like that.
I'm a simple man. Simple man making simple moves.
Well, what's funny is that the reason why he's called Let Me Solar Her is because arguably the boss that he's fighting, it is one of the hardest bosses in all of Soulsborne history. And that being said is because one of her attack sequences is literally the hardest attack to dodge. Especially if you have low armor and low vitality or vigor in this case, you will get one shot at her or one comboed, right? It's really, really hard. Even if you try to run away, she'll still catch up to you. And her second form is not too friendly either. Even though she starts off with less health in her second form, it's still not too friendly either.
I'm assuming that she's an actual like boss you have to beat, not optional.
Yeah,
right?
she is in this game, bosses are separated in two ways. There is bosses that are, when you kill them, it actually says that like they are a boss because they're a story boss. And then there's other bosses that are just really strong enemies that have a health bar, have their own little dungeon, have their own little thing, and when you do slay them, they don't have the whole the title of them being a big boss, much like with Bloodborne, right? With Bloodborne, you a nightmare slain, right? There's those who have nightmare slain, and the reason why they say nightmares because they're directly involved in the dream realm
and the plot. Like you're actively moving the plot. Like I was gonna use Bloodborne as like an example. Like the cleric beast. Like you go through the entire game, you see a long bridge. Like there's the chapel. Guess I should walk towards it. And like what's that screaming I hear? And then you hear the cleric beast say, "Come on and slam and welcome to the gym."
Right.
And then you have to fight it. And then it's like cool. I wonder what the fuck that was. And there's like this whole lore explanation. Like you see that cleric beast was actually like a hunter that turned into a beast, and you just killed him. But he's not important to the plot. No. Like you could just completely ignore
literally
him.
An optional boss. You can literally play the entire game of Bloodborne, not even knowing he exists, and then you can go back over there and two-shot him.
Which is funny because I tend to have a habit of like missing a lot of optional areas, but I tend to run into a lot of optional bosses. Like the one near the oh my god, the Cajun guy. I forgot what's called. The one where like they drag your body after they knock you out with the body snatcher.
Oh, once they kill you, there's a prison. Right, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
You have to walk out through the hole and stuff like that, and you fight that monster with the skull, with the bones and shit like that, and you know give him the rattle tattle, and he collapses
Are you
and shit.
talking about the no? There's when you get out of there, you also fight this beast that conjures lightning.
Yeah, that one. That's the one I'm talking about. He's completely optional. You could just beat him, and then you just circle back to the place you were at earlier.
Yeah, that's true. I think
I remember I beat him on stream for the first time, and I was like, "Oh boy, what happens?" Like, "Oh, cool, you just open up a shortcut that you already were at." I was like, Fuck.
yeah.
Okay,
And
cool,
when I
whatever."
did that, honestly, I loved fighting him because he was a cool boss. He had some attacks that were really hard to dodge, but either way, fun boss, cool boss. I like the aesthetics and everything. That being said, with Let Me Solo Her, he's fought this boss 292 times unsuccessfully, and once he got the 293rd try, well, he managed to kill her, and he's been helping out a whole bunch of players who he leaves a summon sign there, and then players will summon them. The reason why he picked 179, I think, was because of the level cap, or something else. I can't quite recall why he chose that level. He doesn't want to level up anymore, but all I know is that a lot of people are talking smack about him because even though she is a hard a boss, 292 times, it's kind of bad of a player. Which I'm not trying to,
I disagree. I disagree with that.
I've never ever. The most I've ever had to waste with lives ever in a boss fight was, ironically enough, the DLC in Bloodborne.
Old Hunters.
Yeah, when you fight Ludwig. When you fight Ludwig.
Yeah.
The only reason why it was hard for me, not because the boss itself was hard, it's because it did peanut damage. Because when I fought him, I was already on my NG Plus run, and this was my first time ever playing Bloodborne, and I was the first time ever doing the DLC, and I'm like, oh yeah, might as well, right? And then I was severely underleveled. Severely. I managed to end up killing him, but I was so dang underleveled. It wasn't funny. I managed beating him, and then I had to take a break from the DLC because it drained me from just that one fight being so underleveled. But I ended up beating it later.
I can't believe I did that on my first playthrough, though. It took a lot of work. I will not lie. I think I vividly remembered. If we're talking about like Dark Souls bosses, it took forever. I think it took me like a couple days.
Yeah.
To beat, what was his name? The final boss from Sekiro. Like that one I remember just being so aggravated. Like that one took me forever. I think the one boss that actively pissed me off was King Allant, or the fake King Allant, spoiler for Demon Souls. Granted, I think I was playing that game completely under leveled the entire time without realizing, and I did like slow ass fight after slow ass fight with him, and I was so close to beating him, but he added that one extra move when I was about to finish him off, and I had to go I had to fight, and I was just like, at that point you just see red, and you just like, you just don't have the patience for it. And to me, that's when I have to stop playing a game, where it's like when games that tell you that they punish you for being impatient, and I'm just like that anxious, then that's when I have to be like, all right, I gotta put the game down, walk away a little bit, and then come back to when I have a cooler mind. Like when I play Hunt Showdown, like with Hunt, you have to play that game super slow, because if you're running around and you make too much goddamn noise, your enemies are gonna know where the fuck you at, and then you're gonna have a bullet in your head. So yeah, that's my thing. But you were talking about earlier, like people were shit talking, saying like, oh, like you died too many times, and that. Look, I'm in the camp that believes, and maybe this is just something that maybe the retro gamers out there might dislike it, but I'm a firm believer that lives in video games are outdated for a lot of reasons.
What do you mean lives? Like
the idea of like you have a certain number of chances, and then once you run out of chances, you have to start all over from the beginning, or you have to move all the way back from a previous progression.
Oh yeah, like Contra and all that stuff.
Like Contra, Mario, like all those old games, or even games nowadays. I don't know if games still come out with lives or anything, but I don't know. I think that as game development keeps going, people are finally realizing like, hey, we should probably, put those outdated arcade ideas back in the past, because games don't need to be like that anymore. Because remember, the reason why games had lives and continues and all that shit like that, it was because it was emulating the arcade experience. Right. You playing Contra on the arcade machine is no different than playing Contra on the Nintendo. The only difference is you have the Konami code, right? True. But it's still the basic principle. You start the game up, you press start, that initiates a credit, and then later you play the game with a said number of lives and continues. That's the point, and that's why they circumvented back then with things like passwords and save systems and things like that. And that's why we're getting this new thing about games where it's like lives are sort of outdated. Like look at the new Mario Odyssey, right? When you die in Mario Odyssey, you don't run out of lives, you just run out of coins. 10 coins at best, which don't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. But I think that's a nice balance. You're losing a resource, but it's a resource you can easily reaccumulate. And you brought up earlier that like, oh, but if you died so many times in a boss in Dark Souls, like what does that say about you? Well, look at a game like Celeste. Like that game is fucking hard, and that's not a Souls game. And that's a game that actively tells you like, hey, don't feel bad about all the fuck ups you did or how many times you died. Look back at that number and said, yeah, look, I fucked up this many times, but I learned from those fuck ups and now I beat the game.
I get that, but like the only reason people are even saying things like that is because I've never spent 292 lives on anything Bloodborne, Soulsborne, even Sekiro related. Does that mean I'm better? No, but like people, that's the thing that people make fun of, right? The whole meme of getting good, right? That's the staple of the Souls series, right? It's just getting good, learning to be better. But 292 times, this is the first time I've ever heard anyone take that long to beat anything.
But then again, how many people actually count their deaths though?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But 292,
I don't know. I
that's
think that's just sort of like elitist. Like I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
There's this YouTube content creator named Yang Yeah, and he fought one of a really hard boss in Demon Souls naked. And in Demon Souls, with this boss, you can fight him at any time once you pass a certain point. He's optional to fight him at a certain point, but you're supposed to technically go up to his lair when you're a little bit more at a higher level, right? And well, he just went there naked with a club and low leveled, and he just said screw it, and he did it. It took him 170 something tries, even though he is decent at the game. That's a challenge, not being at the level you're supposed to be at in Elden Ring, if not higher, to defeat this one boss. I'm not trying to bring him down. All I'm saying is that people are bashing him in one thing, and in that regard, like, 292 times, yikes. That's probably the amount of times I've died to a boss throughout the entire game of whatever game they're playing. So
yeah, but what would you do? What would happen if, let's say, in this hypothetical, let's just say you're playing a Dark Souls fight, you just can't get it, and then later you just hit that 200 cap. Do you just like put the game down? Like, well,
no, of course not.
I can't do it.
No, of course not.
I can't do it, man. You know what? Got to trade the game back in.
Not.
I can't do it.
It's just the
I mean, like, yeah, it's shit talk on the internet. People are always going to be the first ones to say that, well, if I was playing, I would have beat him on the first shot, Like, yeah, like, that's the shit talking, And the whole thing about, like, Dark Souls get good, I think people misinterpret it. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I'm not the voice of the community. Hear me out. Hear me out for a minute. Not. I think when people say get good, I think they mean it towards people that can't beat the game, and then they just say, well, I can't beat the game, so the game needs to accommodate for me and make an easy mode for it. Thus, people... No, hear me out. Hear me out for a minute. I have said time and time again, whenever these like articles came out about like, oh my god, Dark Souls needs an easy mode, it needs for accessibility, it needs to be this and that, and it's like, well, there's a point of limitation where it's like there's, what you want for accessibility, and then there's also creative intention, right? And there's also a lot of balancing issues and things like that. There's a myriad of reasons why these Souls games do not have a difficulty selection whatsoever. But generally speaking, whenever I hear the term get good, people will bitch and moan and complain that, like, yeah, I know what you're going to say, Mark. Was like, oh, but, people make fun of it and say, like, oh, you can't beat a Dark Souls boss.
That's not what I mean. No, the get good meme predates what you just said about the whole article saying the game's too hard. The get good meme came specifically from PvP.
Well, that too. I'm well aware of that, but I'm talking about like when people usually address it towards like game journalists. That's like what I'm referring to.
That's not just for game journalists. That's even for PvP or even PvE, where even people who stream any Soulsborne game, they get spammed with get good when they die to a boss. It's not so much
yeah, I know. Look, I'm not trying to like minimize the term, but I think that what I've always interpreted get good, call me as pretentious as you want, but the way I look at it is just people saying like, well, just get better at the game because like the game isn't meant to accommodate you. And what I mean by that is because like I've seen this time and time again where games that initially were difficult then become too accommodating to the player rather than the player accommodating towards the game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true. But even then, like, that's the whole point of get good. Just be better. Just don't.
Yeah,
get hate.
I know. It's shit talking at the end of the day, but I always
I,
take it
I
as
think
like,
you're reading too hard
hey,
into it, and you just got to get good.
I probably am reading too deep into it. Maybe I'm just like associating with like other games as well.
Yeah.
But that's just how I always just interpret it. It's just, to me, it's like we're in 2022 and there's people who still bitch and moan about that, and I'm just like, well, I don't know what to tell you. Either you get good at the game or you don't buy it. I don't know what else to tell you. People who like legitimately buy Dark Souls games and complain of them being too difficult. Like, I don't know what to tell you. These games are not like sugarcoating it for you.
That's like getting mad at the what's this game called? The very, very hard levels in Super Meat Boy, or people getting really, really mad at Mario Maker 2 because they can't beat the Super Kaizo levels and the super hard difficulty. I mean, that's literally like a skill thing.
Literally the point.
It's a skill thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna lose easily 80 lives, no problem, trying to do a Kaizo
Or
level.
you remember like if you ever got into that subgenre of games like the I Want to Be the Guy game. My personal favorite, I Want to Be the Boshi. That one's always been my personal favorite.
But yeah, it's either way. People are enjoying Elden Ring, and people are enjoying the this dude who's helping out people, who helps out anywhere between 3 to 10 p.m. CST. Either way, it's just a small subsect of people saying, "Oh, 292 times, yikes, cringe."
Can't wait for him to be like a DLC boss, or like there's gonna be like a cult based around them.
Maybe in the future game.
He who comes with a pot and head and 2 swords slays the red demon time and time again.
Maybe in the future game. All I do know is that if there is enough of a cultural push, obviously it will show up in a game potentially. Who knows? All I know is that people have been enjoying this. It's bringing a nice light to Elden Ring, which didn't even need it in the first place because it's already a great game as it is already.
Yeah.
But
at least we all have our common deity.
Which, speaking of, when it comes to PC and even PlayStation, Elden Ring's been doing a lot better when it comes to like frame rate issues and all that stuff. So people have been going back to it now because, well, 1, it's a fun game, and 2, no more frame rate lag and freezing screens because of all that. Whatever software issue was happening with Elden Ring. So yippee on that. So you should get on that, Daniel.
I will. My intentions is that I've been kind of like, if you guys have been wondering, I don't know if I should give like a proper like update video vibe on a podcast, but no, it's just that life has just been kind of readjusting this year for me. I tweeted out a couple months ago that, you know, I started this new job, and this new job brings like a lot of new adjustments in my life. Like, you know, for once having the weekends back again, which is really freaking nice. Like, I kind of forgot how nice it is to have the weekend, you know, because when you were working overnight like me, you get home on a Monday and then you sleep all day, and then you only have really Tuesday to do anything. It's kind of nice to be like, oh shit, I have like, you know, I get off of work on Thursday, I can sleep on Thursday, I'm awake on Friday, which honestly that's bullshit because I slept all day today because I was just really tired. But you know, I just been kind of like getting adjusted to a lot of new things. But one of the main reasons why I've been kind of like been AFK off of like the internet scene was also because I've been working on this like YouTube video for like, I want to say a couple weeks now, more like actively. I've just been recording a lot of gameplay footage over the months, and now I'm like almost done with the scripting process. So my intention is to work on the editing and the video production side of things this weekend. And you know, that's just what I've been kind of doing, is like far as creation wise. So I'm not just completely sitting with my thumb up my ass. But also another thing is though that Marcus and me were talking about earlier is that I am in desperate need of a computer upgrade. I have been rocking this 2080 i7 build for, God, I don't know how many years now. It's been a hot minute. And long story short, it is starting to show a little bit of its usefulness. You know, I still play like legacy titles just fine, and most games just fine, but even older games that are getting like newer updates and stuff are practically unplayable for me. I am like dropping down to like the 60s and 70s, and some, even in some severe cases down to the 50s in certain games at 1440p, that I'm just like, okay, this isn't working. This isn't like, this needs to change right now. But when you're like gonna have to upgrade a processor, you might as well just build a new computer at that point, because you got to get a new processor, you got to get a new motherboard, you got to get the new RAM to support the motherboard and the RAM, you might as well get a new fucking power supply, and then at that point it just snowballs like, yeah, fuck it, you might as well just, you know, build a new computer at that point. So my intention is to be like, all right, I'm gonna get this video out, render it, upload it, and then as soon as it goes live, order the new computer components, and then later get into building this new computer, which I'm hoping to spend a good chunk of change on. And thankfully there is some like optional upgrades I get to. One of the things that I've been kind of holding off on is been upgrading my graphics card, my 2080, because I bought this bad boy because I was upgrading from a 970 to a 2080, and not only was I upgrading from a stronger, more expensive graphics card, I was also upgrading to a new resolution and to a new frame rate standard. You're talking about a guy who used to play in a crappy little 1920 by 1080 Dell monitor that barely did 60 hertz with a 970 to all of a sudden getting a 1440p monitor with 165 hertz. And obviously, though, you want a stronger graphics card to keep up with that frame rate and that new resolution. So I've been playing like a lot of older games and even games that I used to play just fine with. I remember like vividly, I wanted to upgrade my old FX 8320 processor to an i5 because I wanted to play Battlefield 1. And then for a short time, I couldn't play Battlefield 1 even with my i7 because they updated it with something with the newer processors in mind or some bullshit like that. And it was just like completely unplayable. Mm-hmm. So my main chastity or challenge I've been kind of putting myself onto is focus on getting the video out, and then once you're done with the video, build a new computer and then get back into streaming and get back into playing games on a more consistent basis, because right now it is just kind of miserable to play certain games because just the frame rate just going to dog shit when it shouldn't be like that is really depressing. So one of the reasons why I brought that up, though, is also because I think it's been pretty heavily marketed, at least to me, as someone who doesn't really look into graphics cards as much as I used to. So NVIDIA has proposed this like restocked and recharged campaign lately for the 3000 series graphics cards, and I've been seeing them slowly back to MSRP. They're still being bought out. A lot of the third party GPUs are still being sold for like almost $150 more, going off of like the 3080, which is I believe a $700 MSRP graphics card. I'm still seeing them almost to the 1K territory, but that's sort of interesting though, because on one hand it's like, oh, that's cool that newer graphics cards are being more accessible, but on the other hand it's like, well, why are they restocking them if isn't by this time the 4000 series is coming out? And I've been hearing through the grapevine that the 4000 series graphics cards are, in the pipeline. They're going through testing. There's going to be performance gains, of course, yada, yada, yada. And I'm kind of in an iffy position right now. On one hand, my 2080 still holds up really well in the majority of games I play. Like if I play Apex Legends, Hunt and other games like that, I'll be fine. Maybe a little bit on Call of Duty Warzone if I ever feel like reinstalling that piece of shit. I might struggle a little bit. Like that was like the first moment I realized that like the 3080 was worth it, was back when I used to play Warzone like very consistently. Back when Verdansk was still the map. I would see videos of people like Jack Frags showing like, oh, look how like during Downtown, which was notoriously known to drop the frame rate because of all the geometry and stuff, was keeping up like very good. And I was just like, oh shit, this is definitely worth it. Like this is a straight up upgrade. And people were saying like, oh yeah, if you have a 2080, which is what I have, you should definitely consider upgrading to a 3080. But by the time when that video came out and the graphics card became available and frame zero on Best Buy's website, it was already fucking sold out. So I just kind of was like twirling back my thumbs like, well, I would like a new graphics card, but I can't buy one, and I'm certainly ain't gonna pay, $300 plus the MSRP. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's something I wanted to get your take on this, Marco. So let's just say in a hypothetical. Let's just say tomorrow morning I wake up and hey, you could buy a 3080 brand new, either third party or straight from EVGA at MSRP, and you have the foresight and you know that in 1 year's time the 4000 series graphics cards are in the way. Would you take that plunge or would you wait? Now, I know you have a 3080, so let's just assume hypothetically you have a 2080 like me.
Right. Given much like when I got the 3080 Ti, that I'm financially in a good spot for it because that's the only reason why I got a 3080 Ti. If I know that I can secure 3080 Ti or 3090, even 3090 Ti at MSRP, even though the 40 series is coming out, there is no guarantee that I'll get the 40 series card at MSRP, let alone if I can get it, right?
That's very true. That's a point of contention as also myself. Is like, well, should I just buy this now and then like at least I'll be kind of up to date and not as held back compared to the 4000 series, but
right. So I mean, even though To bring up an earlier point that you've mentioned, Nvidia hasn't really quite released any information on when it's releasing it. It's just been giving specs and data on it. That being said, I still wouldn't go for it, even though like when it comes to like, let's use my current graphics card, from my memory, the 3080 Ti, as good of a graphics card as it is, the 4080, not the Ti version, just the 4080, will be at least 3 times better than the 3080 Ti. I'm not sure what that exactly means. I don't quite recall the data that they use. I don't quite recall the testing that they did. All I know is that it's 3 times better. Do with that information what you will. All I know is that it was meant to be, obviously it's new gen stuff, so it is going to be better, much like with DDR5 is like blowing DDR4 in performance out of the water, right? So that's one thing that you should really look forward for or to from new gen stuff. So I would stick with the 3080 Ti for now. If the 4000 series is literally around the corner and they release the date saying, oh, it's coming out December of this year, right? Hypothetically speaking, I would still keep my eyes out for a 30 series card in your situation, just because it's more financially feasible and probably less of a headache, because I don't want to like constantly wait for what do you call this, for sales to come out, for drops to come out, for a new egg shuffle to come out, and in the hopes that I can
Inventory,
get it.
yeah.
But the 30 series will still be out, and honestly it'd be cheaper too if all I had was a 20 series card, which I'd rather not deal with if that's the case, especially since you will need to get a new, well, essentially everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's also another thing, though. It's like another reason why it kind of motivates me to just build a new computer rather than just like replacing the parts what I currently have. Ladies and gentlemen, this computer, just to put it in perspective, I've replaced literally every part of this thing, from the RAM to the motherboard to the processor to the graphics card, time and time again since high school. The only thing that I haven't replaced in this thing is the case and the power supply. You can't even buy this case anymore as far as I'm aware of. And this power supply has been with me since high school. I am living on the edge of danger at this point.
Well, is it that
thing should have been
of case, or is it just like, is there a newer model?
That model,
Right.
That model in particular, you just can't get it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't even know the company that makes this case is even in the fucking market
But
anymore.
honestly, is the case something that you really have to replace? I'm not saying like
Yes.
out of necessity. I'm talking about like,
Oh, not really. No, very true. But that's just my point. It's just like, if I already replaced everything in this thing at the first place, what difference does it make to just get a new case as well?
right.
You know what I'm
Given
saying?
my case,
Like I've managed to fit a 7790, a 970 to a 2080, a new 3 processors at this time, all like at one on the same exact build. And like there was like a meme I used to saw like in a PC build subreddit where it's like, oh, when you first open up your computer and then when you put everything back again, you always get left behind with one extra screw. Yeah. That's the kind of thing where it's like, man, at some point you're just gonna start running out of screws, and then if you're like have to buy a whole bag of like case screws, you might as well just buy another case. And the reason why I say that though is because, obviously I want to be a streamer. That's what I know I've been really pushing behind on, because I've just been, realizing that, what, I need to do something different. This only just being a streamer thing isn't going to cut it anymore, especially with the new platform I've decided to stream on. I have to make video content and shorts and other things as well. But eventually, I don't know if you know about this, Marcos, the idea is that when you're kind of like more of a, I want to say a pro streamer, not a pro competitive. Well, you kind of are competitive, but basically speaking, the end game as a streamer, if you're like super serious, is that you want to have a dual PC streaming setup, right, where one computer does all the gaming and then the other computer does all the streaming thing on the side. Course. It is a fucking headache and it's a mission to get worth, but I am well aware that I'm not going to do that the moment I build my new computer, which is why I'm going to get like a fairly good processor from the start. But I do intend on doing that at some point, of just going completely brand new. When I build this new computer, I do plan on eventually at some point in my lifetime, hopefully sooner than later, I do plan on doing a dual streaming PC setup. but not as soon as I build that new computer, because that's going to take a whole other time of planning and processing and all that other junk and as well. But that is something I will consider in the moment. I'm just putting that out there for people wondering, like, oh, but why does Danny need to have two computers? Like, well, that's the reason. In the meantime, though, I could use this thing as a server. I could put it in the living room as a computer in the living room.
Right.
I don't know, but it's still going to have a purpose.
I've considered creating a server PC that doubles as a. It's mainly going to be a server PC that doubles as a streaming PC if I want to do streaming, but it's going to be like state of the art server PC, and maybe even renting it out, the server itself, but mainly just to run like typical games that I can. What's this thing, like Minecraft, Terraria servers, all that stuff. So yeah, it's one of these things where I'm just like, maybe. I will say though, I just went against it only because, like, I don't think I'm there yet. Not financially speaking, but like the urge to be there. Because like if
you don't have to do it, then don't do it.
Of course. So like I don't think it's that necessary for me, and it's still there. I picked out a cute case for it, a cute everything for it. It's gonna be pink and black, and I like it.
Nice.
I like it. But either way, I still don't think I need it at the moment. I'm not like that desperate for a computer or a second computer, because dude, my current setup with everything at max and multiple tabs open on Chrome, like, and this is just using Chrome whenever I feel like it. This computer, its RAM, its GPU, its CPU usage doesn't go that high, relatively speaking, and nor does the temperature. Since we were just talking about cases, my case fits 10 fans, 3 on top, 3 at the front, 3 on the side, and 1 in the back. And given how my my setup is, my case can support 3 140mm fans, which if I ever want to upgrade my fans, I just upgrade it to a 140mm. I don't gotta buy a new PC because a new PC case, I should say, because I don't really need it, because I have plenty of fans and it looks pretty sick. I just gotta maintain it clean, and that's really it. But that being said, like, the computer itself doesn't get hot.
I actually could give like a really good example of like why you shouldn't do it. Years and years ago, I was really fascinated with the Plex server thing. And for those who don't know what Plex servers are, it was like this idea is like you build a little computer that would just host all your movies that you downloaded, legally, and you would just host it through a Plex app, because it was a convenient thing. Like, this is before like when there was 50 different streaming services back then, and the idea was that like, oh, if you have a DVD of a movie you really like and you want to rip it and have it into a digital copy, and you want to access that movie wherever you want, you would rip the movie, put it into a hard drive, and then that hard drive you plug it into a computer that would be always on and running as a Plex server, which it had a purpose. It was kind of convenient knowing that like, oh, if I really like a movie a lot, I could just buy the Blu-ray, rip the Blu-ray, put it on a hard drive, and then I could access it through an app at any time, like Netflix, without having to pull out the Blu-ray, or I could watch it wherever I want. And there was a time where I did all the research and I wanted to do it because it was a fun hobby. And I had this case, and it was this neat little fridge ass case, right? And I was putting everything together. I was really scratching my head, and there was this moment, this like light bulb clicked in my head. I'm like, no one is going to use this thing other than me. So I had to like shyly go to Amazon, put a bunch of refund requests in, and shipped every piece one by one back. And then now I'm only stuck with this case that's sitting in my closet for some reason, just sitting there with nothing in it. I don't even think I have the screws for it or anything. And it was just one of those moments where it's just like, you know what? This is something I don't need to do right now, or probably ever in my lifetime. I'm just going to give up on that, which I should have done that before I committed and bought all those computer parts. But that's just my point. Like, that's where I'm getting at, is that like sometimes you kind of have to take a look back. And that's why like I try my best not to buy things on impulse as much as I used to, because now I think the rich man mentality is that you wait 7 days before you buy something like to really know if you really want it, because nothing sucks more than you buy that one thing you really want, you really enjoy it for maybe a week, and then you kind of forget about it. Now it's just like takes up space, or sits in your closet, like your old Guitar Hero or Rock Band stuff. Like, yeah, it was fun as shit when you didn't have it, but now you have it, and now you're not playing it, and now it's just collecting dust, and now it's just taking up space. And that's just like the mindset that I try to have, is that like I try to think like super far ahead and be like, what is something that's like neat, but something that is going to have like purpose for years to come,
Right. And it's one of the things that really stopped me from like getting a second PC, is because like, why do I need the infrastructure to be there if the infrastructure isn't really going to be used to its full potential? It's like one of those things where like, hey, I want to make an electric car company, but in order for it to be like truly successful, I need to build the infrastructure of charging stations all throughout America or all throughout certain major cities. Like, do you build the infrastructure first, then do the product, or do you do the product first, then slowly build the infrastructure? And it's one of these arguments in economics and in business that you need to struggle with. Like, it's got to be a good balance of both. And that being said, I don't need a second computer. I mean, technically, I can share some of my RAM that I have now on my computer, and and just share it to do a server. Actually, you know what? Let me pull out Task Manager real quick. Where are we at? Currently, I am playing. Every time I re-record, I always play video games because it keeps my head going, and for some reason, I think of better thoughts when I'm playing games. And I'm playing Vanguard on the max settings and everything. I'm getting 150 frames. And I have a bunch of tabs open, and my memory is at 30%. So I can, with this computer alone, I can give 25% for a server, and it'll be pretty good. I have 64 gigs of RAM. Why? Because screw you, it's a flex. So that being said, I'm like, I don't.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is what's called a flex.
Flex moment, right? So I'm like, I thought about it. I'm like, do I really need it? I have a beast of a computer that I spent a good amount of chunk of change on it. I don't really need it. And going back to your situation with the whole 30 series versus 40 series card, honestly, if it shows up to your doorstep and it's already ready to be used, might as well just have what you got and not pull any hairs, like with a lot of people in this podcast with PS5s. My throat's a little scratchy. Sorry about that. But yeah, it's one of those things where you need to like I know when to bet, know when to roll the dice, because it's not optimal or efficient, I should say.
And we should clarify, we're talking about as people who already have graphics cards. For you guys out there that are trying to build a new computer nowadays, hey man, start praying to some deities, because you are fucked in no way, shape, or form. I feel nothing but pity for you guys. You guys are screwed out of your ass right now, because, we're talking about as people who are lucky to still have like fucking graphics cards. It's like a bunch of people like sitting around all day and be like, hey man, I really like the Mercedes, but I really want that new Lamborghini. I heard it runs a little bit faster. Like, yeah, it sounds like really pompous as fuck, where it's like, damn, these two guys already got, cars. Meanwhile, I'm still riding a fucking busted up bike with one of the wheels is fucked up. Like, we're just talking about from a perspective of someone who already has a computer and already has a graphics card, because man, nothing is more depressing than like the other day I was watching like, what's a good $1,000 PC build, and like they didn't even put a graphics card in there, and I'm like, how did it come to this point? Like, holy shit, that is depressing as fuck. I went through almost a year without a graphics card when I first built my computer, and it was fucking miserable.
Oh yeah,
it ran great. Like, as far as like using Windows and shit like that, to me, as a kid who used a shitty Windows Vista computer up to that point, like being able to boot up Windows 10 and not have any issues with it, well, Windows 7 at that point, that was already a fucking miracle. But like being told that like, oh yeah, dude, like once you get like a graphics card, now that's when your computer starts doing cool shit. And I'm like, all right, bet. And I bought like a cheap $80 graphics card, blew my fucking mind.
Well, let me help you out with this real quick, right? So, with regards to, nowadays with $1,000 build computer here, it has no GPU. That is fine and all. However, inflation's a thing, and obviously it affected the computer business all the more.
Yeah, that's why they didn't put one, because like I remember like early. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but like I remember when early on, when people are trying to do like $1,000 builds or like builds in general on like YouTube, like very basic shit, right? Like, oh, $600 build or $700 build. There's always like this asterisk that they have to put there, like, oh, I'm going to refer you to this graphics card if you could get it at this price.
Right.
And it's like, good luck.
Let me bring up an interesting point that I heard about the other day. Now, I don't quite recall which states have this, but it is a nice thought experiment nonetheless, right? So let's just say in the 1980s, 1985, right? A state passed a bill, right? It went through the House of Representatives, it went through the House of it went through the senators, it went through the governor, and then it went through the Supreme Court of the land, and I mean of that state, where in 1985 it says if you steal $1,000 worth of anything, you'll get hit with a felony theft, right? And that's the threshold they got hit with, right? And I think, it was New York. It was New York, $1,000. In New Jersey, I believe it was $200. In Texas, I think it's $2,500, right? So, cool, right? But let's stick with the New York example, right? It's considered you get a felony theft if you steal over $1,000 or more in anything, right? This was in 1985. Now, $1,000 worth of stuff here in 2022 is worth different than it was in 1985. It is currently worth the buying equivalent, the purchasing power of $1,000 from then. It's worth $2,648. But the law still says $1,000. So people are getting hit with felony charges for stealing $1,000 worth of stuff, which should go with inflation. I know this is a side subject, but it's something that did interest me, that people don't really look at inflation. So like, look at now how people are buying cars back again. It's like, I bought this car for $15,000 in 2015, and they're offering me the same amount of money back. And I'm like, it seems that way because, we're having car shortages here because of the chips and stuff and car parts. It seems that way, but the purchasing power of today's money isn't the same as in 2015. So, that being said, with your build, $1,000 build nowadays, no GPU, and the only integrated graphics that the thing has is in the CPU. It's funny that it has no GPU, but I mean, you gotta play the game that we've been dealing with, especially with the cryptocurrency game. GPUs have been going up and up, and they just still go up because, well, it's it's what makes the market move, the crypto market, the crypto world. So it is what it is. But like,
which is weird because I've been hearing news is that like, these new graphics cards coming out are being less and less, like the gaming version of these graphics cards are being less and less incentivized for Bitcoin, because I think they've brought out like the math, because a lot of people get this idea is like, you just buy a graphics card, you throw that bad boy in, and then you make it money. But with any business, there's always a cost to it. Like your light bill is going to get fucked in the ass. So obviously though, I think they broke down the chart where it's like, for every one thing you make, you would spend like over $300 in like a month on light, essentially, just for one graphics card. Yeah. So basically, this is what makes it interesting, because it's like, should we point the finger at, because back in the day, the common cause of like the unified agreement, like why graphics cards are so expensive. I'm not talking about the 30,000 GPUs. I'm talking about like the 2000 series GPUs. Was okay. It was Bitcoin. I still vividly remember this. I was so I call it like the most sadistic form of me ever. But I remember I was sitting in school one day, and I was mad. Granted, I was a mad fucking dude and when I was in college. I should have wrote a grunge album at that time. There was a kid right next to me, and he was keeping tracks of a shitty little Bitcoin. And I remember just seeing like the Bitcoin thing was just going down, and he was trying to buy a graphics card around that time for that purpose. And I remember him being so fucking mad about it that he was just like, oh man, I can't make any more of my coin because of this shit. And I was like, man, I'm so happy you can't do that. Fuck you, man. I've been wanting to get a new graphics card for a while, and now you pricks like you are the reason why I can't do that.
I did do mining for a bit, and funny enough, I won't say how I did it, but I did use I did not have to pay for electricity, so cool.
I paid for a lot of hamsters to power my computers.
So obviously, I think it was in Europe or maybe Canada. So one thing that police tend to do is they would patrol around neighborhoods with infrared cameras. And one thing that you see common in houses that are growing cannabis is that light bill super high, and it's always hot, given that the lamps are always on, need to stay on in order to maintain a proper and efficient growth cycle of the cannabis plant. That being said, police can use this, at least in the U.S., can use this as jurisdiction to like, hey, this place is hot, always on with electricity, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's always,
I think I know exactly what you're talking about. Right. Yeah, I remember hearing about.
So there's this place. I can't remember if it's in Europe or in Canada, where they were getting very, very.
Let's just say Russia. That's probably a safer bet.
Or maybe Russia, right? Where they got a similar thing where like, hey, we think there's weed being grown here because electricity, heavy amounts of electricity, heat, and everything. Well, they're busting the door, expecting to find lots of cannabis plants in this like shed type of thing. Yeah. And when they open it, it's a whole bunch of freaking graphics cards, and it's just so funny. And all you hear when they open the door is a whole bunch of fans spinning, and it's funny. Whoever's operation that is, it's hilarious. And one of the reasons why they also broke it down is because they were basically stealing your electricity because they were connected to a power line. So
yeah, it's kind of like when you go to like to shitty neighborhoods, like people just like steal power from other people's houses.
yeah, which is why you should like
It's kind of like
you
that.
should really like pay attention to your Wi-Fi, your internet, and your electricity and how much you actually use. It's not that hard. A lot of plans nowadays tells you how much electricity this should take per year,
Yeah.
and you should just do the math, and you're like, oh, this is how much I should use, whatever. But it is quite funny with the crypto market that you need to.
Which is that's the thing though. Where do you draw the morality of the situation? Like, do you like? I think a lot of people generally agree that like NFTs are stupid and people don't like it, and that people who like flex about it and be like, oh, look at my funny monkey picture. I make millions of dollars on my monkey picture.
Yeah, we're over here. We're doing 9 to 5. Some idiot just sold a freaking monkey picture for $400,000, and yeah.
Because some other idiot decided to buy it for $400,000. Like that's the thing I'm getting at. But like, where do you draw the line? Because maybe it's because I've been watching too many Wojak meme videos or something. Like Wojak quits his job to become a day trader and all that kind of shit from like Millennial Thinker and stuff like that. Like, where do you draw the line of morality in that situation? Do you think like buying crypto is bad? Is making crypto? Are you incentivizing the market for fucked up graphics cards? Because that was my point I was trying to get at earlier, is that like, are the graphics cards being sold out because of, people who just want to get into crypto, or is it because there's legitimately a demand of people who really want a fucking graphics card because they want it for the computers? Because like, no one's buying like a PlayStation 5 because they want to fucking use it for like Bitcoin mining. They're buying it because they want the product.
They could, if they wanted to.
But it's also the same people who probably thought that like, hey, did you know that Al Qaeda was using PlayStation 2s as like a supercomputer?
A whole bunch of them to make a supercomputer, which honestly you can. If you get them together.
But would it be worth it though?
Not really, honestly.
No, of course not. That's fucking stupid.
Yeah, that's the dumb part.
So like, that's my point though, is that like, are we in a time right now where like, are graphics cards just being sold out because of the Bitcoin thing, or is it because just a high demand for it, and that's just a problem?
High demand overall, obviously. One of the cases.
And then yes, there's also scalpers.
Right,
I'm well aware. I'm just trying to point the fact that like, in the list of reasons why graphics cards are so hard to buy is Bitcoin the number one.
Really one of the things that people have complained about in the gaming industry about, like, hey, we want to play games, we want to buy your product, but we can't because people who want to mine cryptocurrency are making it difficult. And I'm pretty sure in our last episode, or even the one before that, I've mentioned that even graphics cards developers or manufacturers are looking into creating cards that were meant for mining and meant for gaming.
Gaming.
Given what functions they can perform better for gaming and functions that can perform better for mining. And that seems cool. That seems great. But obviously, this has been a big issue. Heck, even PlayStation and Microsoft know about the whole scalping situation with their consoles. But they don't really quite care about it as long as they get units out. But even then, people are still upset. On the customer side,
it's a losing battle at that point. It's like, damn, we're making so much money, but like, so many people aren't buying our product. But then again, a lot of people are buying our product, and we're making money out of it.
Even Kenny brought up a really funny thing where during a Halo Infinite tournament, they couldn't find sufficient amount of Xbox Series X's to run the game because it was a console-based tournament, not a PC thing, right? So
I'm assuming that Halo hasn't transitioned from console to PC yet, as far as like the competitive
I think
scene.
For this tournament, because it was a Microsoft tournament, they wanted to use.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
No, competitive scenes, I'm pretty sure it's different. But when it came to this Microsoft sponsored one or this Xbox sponsored one, they wanted to use the console. And given the current state of the world with the Xbox and new gen consoles, is this 9th gen consoles that we're in?
Man, that's crazy. So this is a Microsoft run,
and
what
Xbox is it?
But this was run by Microsoft.
Microsoft or Xbox, one of the two. And what they ended up doing was they used the Xbox Series prototypes to run the tournament, and it ran well. And when Kenny said it, it was ironic how this current state of scalping and all that stuff came to such a degree that not even the manufacturer, the people who
I was about to say that is fucking crazy. Like, I remember there was a similar hubbub that came up when Guilty Gear was coming out. I don't remember the stipulations, but long story short, people said there was less input lag on the PS5 version of Guilty Gear compared to the PS4 version. I could be wrong, but something along the lines for a game. And I remembered when the word of that came out, you see all these tournament organizers saying, yeah, we're not buying PlayStation 5s. Fuck that. You guys are going to have to deal with that shit. And what, you want computers too? Oh, let's just try buying some graphics cards. Oh, wait, we can't fucking do that, genius. Get used to dust out the PlayStation 4 and play that shit.
Yeah, that's one thing with a lot of tournament organizers, especially like when it came to the Nintendo Switch, people wanted to do Smash tournaments, and it became pretty common.
Was the Switch still hard to find around when Smash came out?
At the beginning of the
beginning? Okay.
Well, that's really it. Once things started evening out, it wasn't even just the beginning as well, just the console itself, but the issues that came with the console, the inherent problems that the version 1.0 Nintendo Switch had that gave people a lot of headaches. It's this market of high demand, but the supply is very, very.
It's just never gonna keep up.
Right.
It's just impossible. And I remember hearing the hubbub about people suggesting, well, what if the Steam Link becomes the new standard for tournaments and stuff? And I don't know, it could be, but how long until that becomes super hard to buy and stuff? Which is still kind of crazy to me that the Steam Link has been out for a while. Mm-hmm. For not everyone, obviously. I know that, it's still fairly early on, but I've heard a lot of good things about it, and it's not one of those Steam products that, no offense to Valve, where, they come out with a neat product, but it's super niche and it doesn't really inherently sell as well. A good example is the Steam Link or the Steam controller.
Yeah, the Steam
where
controller.
It was I saw the purpose of it. It makes complete sense, but it's more we made a controller to solve a problem, but we didn't make a good controller to compensate.
Yeah, you
for
can
it.
see.
You know what I'm saying?
The market. You can see the people would complain about something
where's the second analog stick? Where's this and that? But then Valve will tell us, but the reason for that is because this game is meant to play for all PC games, and it's I get where you're coming from, Valve, but how many people are really going to play Civ or City Skylines with a fucking controller when most of them are probably going to play with a mouse and keyboard, even wirelessly on the fucking couch?
I mean, I can't really play Elden Ring or any Soulsborne game on the anything but a controller. So I mean,
yeah, but that's what the Steam controller was meant for. It was meant for a controller for all games, even if they don't have controller support.
That's true. And even considering
I would love to own one for the history of it, but I've seen video after video of these people saying yeah, this controller's decent for $40, but for an extra $5 you could get extra $10, you could get a 360 and it's just as good.
Right, and not even that, even the PlayStation 5 controller feels phenomenal. It feels great in your hands, and I don't think the only controller I would actually buy just because of how it feels, if I want to splurge the money on, and Kenny can attest to this because he loves getting the Elite controllers every time they come out with a new version. Kenny does have a lot of Xbox stuff, which is pretty cool. But the Elite controller feels really, really good. It feels nice.
But is it worth the $150 though?
$250 even.
Yeah, that's the question. Look, I mean,
if all you do is play,
I'm even stingy on doing custom controllers on a GameCube controller. I don't even play Smash Brothers. I would just that meme where Marge Simpson is just I just think they're really neat. That's me with custom GameCube controllers. Yeah, I don't play Smash even remotely competitive, and no one's gonna see this controller other than me. But I think it looks really neat.
Which sucks that Panda stopped doing their whole. You know how they were making controllers, GameCube controllers, custom GameCube controllers that would cost $100, and it comes with everything. It came with a lot of goodies that you would get. It would cost $250 to get it from a typical controller shop or whatever, a custom controller and all that stuff. The reason why they stopped is because there was going to be some shipping issues when it came to their Chinese market. Well, I mean, the Chinese supplier. So it's pretty cool that they refunded everyone's money because they couldn't guarantee the what do you call this? They couldn't guarantee everyone's order
to make it a market, essentially.
Yeah, and it's cool that they were humble enough to return everyone's money because hey, we can't commit to all the people who put money down, so we got to return everything. And then once things get better, we'll start it up again. But yeah, controllers. I mean, a lot of people have been playing Warzone. PC players have been playing Warzone with controllers because aim assist. So imagine having a better machine to run Warzone, and then you just use the added benefit of having aim assist. You have widescreen support. You have a bigger screen,
FOV slider.
You have better frame rates, better fidelity,
and some cheats,
and basically, right? But then you have aim assist, and that really just makes it so unfair for people who are just.
And now we have like the whole age-old debate: should cross-platform include console and PC players? Should we do this and that? It is a fucking can of worms.
The only reason I say yes,
I just want like
it's just because get good. That's really it.
I don't know. I don't know. It's a little more complicated than that, Marcos. But that's just my take.
I've never had an issue going up against aim assist people.
Oh, I do. I've plenty of problems with it, but that's a whole other can of worms. But yeah, going back to like the Valve thing, I was just making a point of it. Is like Valve hardware usually comes out very rarely for a specific niche. Like a good example is right here on top of my on my bookshelf, I have a Steam Link just sitting there. I was so fucking excited to buy this thing. I drove miles to get one at a GameStop when they were pennying these machines out on the dollar. I think these things were originally for like $20. I bought it for like $6 or $5. I had to drive all the way down to Bayside Mall to get it because it was the only place available at a GameStop. The only thing is I lost the power supply, so I got to find a replacement. But I did try it out, and it works. It is pretty cool being able to stream Dark Souls 3 when it was still the new Dark Souls at the time through an Ethernet cable from my computer in my room all the way down to the living room, which kind of defeated the purpose of ever getting like a living room PC, which has always been a fascinating thing. Like, I don't know if people still make living room PCs anymore.
Yeah.
Back in my day, that was... back in my day, that was, like, a cool thing to have. Like, you wanted a thing that could do all the streaming, but also could do gaming. But in the day and age of, like, streaming devices that are much more affordable and much cheaper, and they're just as powerful to, like, stream the games over and play them, like, I'm talking about, like, the NVIDIA Shield, for example, which is probably my home theater PC device of choice, because that thing is powerful enough to play games and can run a Plex server off of that one device. That kind of makes it of a purpose where it's like, why I wouldn't build a home theater PC anymore, because I could spend just as much, if not even less, than just buying an NVIDIA Shield and just play that.
Right. Honestly, when it comes to Steam stuff, obviously people can expect it to answer a complaint that people have been having, and the Steam Deck is the most recent of Steam products that really does answer that question, that it's been doing well when it comes to like how you can customize it, how user-friendly it is, how tech-friendly it is to people who are more tech-savvy, so on and so forth. But Steam, the controller has never been a big thing for me, that when they release a controller. But the Steam Link, I've only known of you and one other person who's used it. And the other friend that I know has really, really liked it because they use their PC for gaming, but when it comes to like family night, when it comes to like at a party or anything, hey, they can get I won't say that they get their movies or their shows through a valid method in the legal sense, but
let's just say he's a really big fan of Pirates of the Caribbean and move
on. But instead of the Caribbean, it's at a base somewhere, you know. So
yeah.
And he loves just flipping a switch, and he can either mirror his screen or everything just goes to that screen. And he quite enjoyed the product. He really pushed it to its limits until like, hey, COVID happened, and he just stopped using it overall. Really, he's just been chilling in his room doing his own thing, really, and he's been single too, so he's just been chilling in his own room, his own computer room.
Yeah, it's like me, if I ever want to think about like putting any gaming device in the living room, it's like, yeah, I would put it once to invite you guys over because playing in my bedroom is like super cramped, but then afterwards it would have no reason to do it. So to me, to like buy a dedicated device to play games in the living room when barely anybody comes to my house is not a good investment, essentially.
Yeah, it's an infrastructure thing. Like, even then, like, if you're someone who spent, I don't know, we've seen those TVs at Costco that go upward to like $3,000, and if you spend money on that and you want to watch a quality video or with a entertainment home theater system, and you spent upwards to $5,000 or more on just your TV setup to have the fullest experience, sounds, everything. Every time you watch a NFL game, you can hear the farts coming out of every player because of how crystal clear your audio is and how just very, very efficient at all this.
And you can smell the man ass. You could just smell it. Just experimental technology, but you could just smell the man ass.
And you have 16K TV that you can see the sweat dripping out of their neck from like 100 yards away.
You could just taste
basically.
it. Just completely
basically.
taste it. Yeah.
And like only then will Ace is like, hey, I'm going to use my Steam Deck to stream my PC to my TV, just to watch a movie or something, because I spent my money on that. But again, this is a whole infrastructure thing versus the product itself. Just having the product, it's cool to have it, but what's the point if you're just gonna watch it on a
I think the best example of like Valve like inventing a machine that probably solved one problem, but it just brings up a billion other questions. And I never quite got the hype for it. Even like as other PC gamers were flipping their shit, it's like, this is it. Consoles are dead. No more consoles. Buy PlayStation. Buy all this. Is the Steam machines. I never understood it. Mm-hmm. It is a PC that is running off of Linux, which is already limited, and then later you have to plug it into your computer. I mean, you have to plug it into the TV, and it's treated like a console. So why don't you just build a computer at that point?
I guess it's just to get these people on board with whatever.
Like, I get it. It's a way to like convince people who are just way too stubborn and be like, nope, I can't deal with computers, man. I can't do it. But at the same time, it's like, but you're going to deal with Linux and a lesser operating system at that point? Why do you think the Steam machines died off? I never got the hype for it. I just never got it. It's like, why don't I just build a computer at that point, download Steam OS on it, and I could do whatever the fuck I want with it later?
Linux is great, but when it comes to like overall, like that feeling of when it comes to gaming, relatively speaking, when you're talking about Apple, Linux, and Windows just has it. For gaming, it's a lot more comfortable. Obviously, Linux has its own advantages and other things. People enjoy gaming on a Linux machine, but that's their taste. Obviously, they probably use Linux for other things.
Hey, no disrespect to the Linux users. I respect that. I respect you want to add 20 extra steps. I can respect it, and I can respect the lightweight of it. That's a very incentivizing reason to run Linux. But I don't know. That's like whenever people tell me they're like, oh yeah, Valve, greatest company ever. They don't fuck up. But it's like, yeah, but where are the Steam machines? What happened with those?
But
all that hype, and I never understood it. What was the market for? If someone told me, like, hey, man, I want a Steam machine. All right, dude, I'm going to tell you how to build a Steam machine. You buy a graphics card, a processor, a case, you put that shit together, and then, bam, now you could have a Steam machine, and you could just unplug it and take it with you with your boys. Like, yeah, it's going to weigh a little bit more than that 360 you're holding, but it's a fucking computer.
I have this $2,000 laptop that I bought it for $1,000 off a friend because he needed the financial help. So I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? I'll take it off your hands. I don't really quite need it as of yet, but I know there are situations where I do need it. Where in the past I'm like, dang, I need a laptop. So I have it, but I'd rather get a laptop than a Steam machine. To tell you the truth, I would still prefer a laptop over the Steam Deck, and it's something that. Some people just want to get a Steam Deck just, because it's a new thing in the market. But, like, a laptop is limited in some ways, physically speaking, when it comes to comfort. But when it comes to software-wise and hardware-wise, it'll outperform a Steam Deck in games in a lot of ways. And it's something I still prefer. But the Steam Deck still shows it's still a quality product.
It has a place. It's very true. I will agree that the Steam Deck definitely has a place. I don't think, I was like ringing the bell, be like, this is it. The Switch is dead. No more Switch. No. The Steam Deck takes it over. Like, I don't know about that one, Chief.
But the potential's there. I mean, maybe we can see the PlayStation bring back its portable console. Who knows?
Fuck no. Absolutely not. I don't think they can after the Vita. Absolutely not.
The Vita was just poorly advertised and poorly,
and less likely the PSP. Like, let's, I'm all for competition, but hey, man, I would rather take Microsoft's word and say we're gonna make a portable console that is competent than the Vita. Because if you told me the Vita came out only in Japan and it did well, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because that's the only way. If someone tells me Vita and successor in the same sentence,
true, that's true. But I will say though, when it comes to the handheld stuff, products, obviously the Steam Deck is meant to be just that. You could do remote play on it. I mean, just recently I found out, or maybe I just remembered, because this is something that I probably knew about, but I just forgot about it. I logged into my laptop, and I was able to do remote play from my what was it? Yeah, from my PC build. And I forgot that was a thing. And I'm like, oh, dang, remote play. And it even tells me on PC, hey, remote play enabled. And when I close my laptop, remote play is no longer available. And I'm like, dang, this is pretty sick. So I can just transfer my data over whenever I want to. And I thought that was pretty sick. That was pretty cool. But how often will I use it? Not much, because
Probably not. Like, yeah, it's one of those things just like, this is cool and all, but I'm not going to depend on it. Far from it. And like, when is the likely chance you're gonna be like, you know what, dude, I don't feel like playing it on my computer. Instead, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk a couple steps out of my room and go to the living room and stream the video to my TV that's gonna be hella pixelated, and it's gonna have a little bit of fun input lag, because I need the extra challenge.
Right. Even then, I can still see why a Steam Deck would be comfortable, right? You're just going to work and keep it in your pocket, because you have a sweater or a hoodie that has a nice deep pocket, and you can just throw it in there.
I mean, like, yeah, if I'm going to play, like, a turn-based RPG, like, I'm going to play Final Fantasy VII on the fucking living room, like, hey, kids, let's watch, Grandpa play as the blonde twink, you know what I'm saying?
But when it comes to watching movies, I still rather watch it on my phone, because the screen is a much higher quality screen than the Steam Deck.
Which is weird. I used to have a rule that I didn't want to watch movies on my phone, but then after a while I just said, fuck it, I'm never going to have a chance to watch it, so I just start watching movies on my phone.
Your overnight job, and your job mostly being nothing most of the time.
Well, no longer doing overnight, but now in my current job I still sneakily try to watch shit on my phone. But yeah, I think we should just start wrapping up real quick, but I just want to ask you one question, Marcos. Are you excited for the Sonic Origins collection?
Yes, only because of the widescreen support, but there's mods out there that exist for that. But
oh yeah, if there's a thing called Sonic. Mainly I was excited because of Sonic 3. There's a great Sonic remake called Sonic Air, or Angel Island Remastered, or Revisited.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. Angel Island. Yeah.
It's really good. It is really, really good. I'm excited because to me the remaster does look really well. I know a lot of people have really got pissy about the different tiers, because like, I don't know, man, anytime like a game comes out and there's like a tier list of like, like the Ubisoft like Ordinary Edition, Gold Edition, Silver Edition, Ultimate Edition, and then it comes with like this chart of all the extra content added. Let me translate that for anybody who's a fan of Ubisoft games. The regular game is going to go on sale in a week, and probably it's going to go down to $40. The Gold Edition is going to cost $60 in a week. The Silver Edition is going to cost $65, and then it goes from there, right? Because I don't know anybody who buys a Ubisoft game day one at launch for $60. If you do that, you should not have a credit card with you for a week and tell me the same fucking answer, because I don't know how anybody could buy a Ubisoft game and be like, yep, $60. And not regret it.
Given this whole thing, especially with EA, does the same thing where like, hey, if you buy this edition, you'll get these goodies. But if you get this edition, you'll get these goodies, but not those goodies. And then you buy this edition.
To be fair though, nothing will top the collector's edition of Mass Effect Andromeda. A collector's edition that came with so much shit, but doesn't even come with the fucking game. I don't know how the hell did someone convince someone in EA and did it and be like, that's evil, Johnson. I love it.
One thing that people have found out,
you couldn't slip a fucking code in it. How the fuck did that even get through?
One thing that people like, I forgot who was it on Twitter, I think, that's someone just says, hey, if you want Sonic Origins and you want everything that it has to offer, here's what you got to do. You buy the digital deluxe edition, but you pre-order it. That gives you every single thing that the Sonic Origins has to offer. DLC, the pre-order bonus, and all the other bonuses that come with the digital deluxe edition. Just everything. That's if you pre-order the digital deluxe edition. But when you're just buying the regular base game, you still have to buy the DLC. You still have to buy everything else. And it's going to be, I think, $10 worth of content that you need to buy. Versus when you do the digital deluxe edition and you pre-order it, it's just $5. Which...
yeah, you're right. I'm looking at the price right now.
It's not too crazy, but if you want the full package of the Origins, you pre-order the digital deluxe edition, and it comes with every single little thing. One thing that I do like about it is that, for those who don't know, Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles were primarily supposed to be one game, but given the development time issues, they were separated into two games. But the Genesis...
because of a McDonald's Happy Meal promotion.
Yes, of all things, right? So...
of all fucking things.
So, they developed Sonic and Knuckles with a little thing on top.
Lock-on technology.
Yeah, that gives that you can put another cartridge on top with a compatible game, and that you could play Sonic 3 and Knuckles. But if you put that same game, Sonic and Knuckles, with Sonic 2, you were able to play as Knuckles in Sonic 2, which is pretty sick, pretty cool, right? So this game, the Sonic Origins, is very similar. I'm glad that Sonic CD, which I still think is an amazing classic.
I just like to imagine some fucking kid who's like, man, gee whiz, this is really fun. What if I put Sonic 2 on this thing? Holy shit! It's Knuckles!
Knuckles. So yeah, it's
Knuckles!
4 games. It's 4 games remastered. No, redone.
Now, here's the question. Will they put the original soundtrack of this game? Is the main thing I'm mostly fascinated about Sonic 3.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure you know about the Michael Jackson connection with Sonic 3 and Knuckles,
theory,
right?
It's never been confirmed.
Well, no, it's dude. I feel like that it's so blown the fuck out where it's like,
yeah.
But it's like, how the fuck? Why can't 2 people just come and agree? Say yes, no, it's a fucking mystery. Now Michael's dead. Now we'll never fucking know.
Because of NDAs. Because it's not.
I know, but
it's not Michael Jackson the person. It's Michael Jackson the entity, the business that.
No, it's Brad Buxer, the guy who worked on it, but he also made a song called Hard Times, which is literally just Ice Cap Zone, and it's actually a banger of a song. Not gonna lie though, but man, that's just always been a thing that as a kid, I remember like playing Sonic 3 on the PC version that had that really weird like MIDI format version of the song. And then, I thought like, oh, then that makes sense. They just replaced the music. And then when the Sonic 3 beta dropped a couple years ago, and then we found out like, holy shit, it's the PC songs the whole time. So does that mean it had to be Michael Jackson who did it? What the fuck is going on? And then you just realize like right when that realization happened, now it's when like Sonic 3 is like completely offhand. Like, oh, now we can't release it because now we have all this fucking problems to deal with it and shit, right? It's sort of the same thing where, like, in a similar note where, like, Miss Pac-Man isn't getting his re-release. I don't know if you noticed this because I play a lot of Pac-Man now. Did you notice that, like, Miss Pac-Man doesn't get released as much?
Yeah.
And you know why, right? Miss Pac-Man was originally just a ROM hack of Pac-Man that a bunch of college kids did, but it was like really good. So what happened was that Midway, who was the distributor of Pac-Man at the time in America on the arcades, they said, you know what, fuck it. Rather than suing you guys into the ground, we're just going to go ahead and buy the game out of you outright. And then Namco had this like shaky ground where it was like, okay, so it's technically ours, right? But there's always been that like hint that apparently the people could sue the shit out of Namco. So that's why they just played safe and like, all right, you know what, fuck it, Miss Pac-Man, fuck that bitch. We're just going to release Pac-Man because only Pac-Man now.
That makes sense.
So, yeah, I'm just excited if they... I don't know how the fuck they're going to do it. I doubt it. I think they're really just going to put the original tracks at this point. I think they're going to just said, fuck it. We can't get sued at this point. Let's just put the original music in. Which is funny because the PC tracks actually sound not as bad if you listen to it a Genesis font than if you weren't listening to a MIDI font. But it was just a weird detail that like we would have never found out about this until one guy managed to find a beta ROM of Sonic 3 and then connected the dots.
True. And honestly, when it comes to like the audio or at least the music, if it's the original or a different kind, to me it doesn't quite matter because you can always just mod the original stuff in there. I mean, even the GTA Trilogy Remastered Edition, whatever it's called, the Definitive Edition, people have mods where they put the original songs that were in the old school games back in this whole Definitive Edition, which is still a piece of crap, by the way. So yeah.
Yeah, or like when they retroactively patched in a thing to remove Billie Jean from Vice City on Steam. Yeah, oh no, they did. Oh, let me just put it back in.
Yeah, or they did the mod where they brought back in San Andreas the one mission that made it a rated A game. The
hot coffee mod and stuff like that.
That's what it was. So yeah, but I'm looking forward to the hype that it's going to bring to the Sonic community. Obviously, the Sonic movies is doing that very, very well. And this is going to be another classic Sonic game. Like with Sonic Mania, it's going to be another classic game that it hopefully revitalizes the old school and the new school market when it comes to, or the scene, the new school and old school scene of players
We just want a Sonic Mania 2, please. Just give me another Sonic Mania 2. Look, I'm interested in Sonic Frontiers, but listen, if that game's a massive piece of shit, and then you told me like at the end credits, oh, Sonic Mania 4 is coming out. I mean, Sonic Mania 2 comes out. All right, cool. That's fine. It was worth playing that piece of shit. At least we're getting a Sonic Mania 2.
Right. So I mean, I'm just looking forward to it. I'm hoping.
And besides, consider that this is being made by the same guys who made Sonic Mania.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah,
nice.
Christian Whitehead is working on this.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it makes sense. And that's like the main thing, like people are saying, like, but why are they charging all these different tiers? Long story short, they realized that, most of this work has probably been done like years ago after the mobile ports and stuff. So they're probably like, okay, how do we squeeze some money out of this to justify people to buy it? And then that's why they made the Digital Deluxe Edition and all these other confusing shit. So my best advice, judging from the Steam page alone, if you're going to buy this thing, just buy it now, pre-order it, get it out of the way, and just get the Digital Deluxe Edition because it's just $5. And at that point, you might as well get all the content.
True.
And especially these animated cutscenes are so fucking good. God damn.
One of the things that we'll end with this that they are withholding, I think the Digital Deluxe Edition is bringing, is like a hard mode, a boss rush mode, extra little modes that will make the game seem a lot more replayable, but they're not including in the base game, or at least not from the get-go. Maybe you have to unlock it some way somehow, or maybe through the DLC. I don't know. I just more detail needs to be released between now and its release date in June 22nd, I think.
23rd.
Okay. So yeah.
But all these animated cutscenes are so pretty.
So pretty.
Oh well, yeah. At least you can tell yourself that, like, well, if I can't buy the cutscenes, I'll just watch them on YouTube. Right. Someone will
Same
do
thing
it.
With Smash Ultimate, where it's like, hey, we're releasing this skin for Smash Ultimate, and you're like, oh, that's nice. I can't wait to just download it for free from someone because they just made a character with the exact same movesets and like armor and everything, and sound effects and everything, because you can do that.
Or it's like when Brawl got leaked early, and then later Sakura got like really mad because all the cool cutscenes were leaked, and he was so mad because he was like, "Oh, that was supposed to be my surprise. You fucking assholes! You ruined my surprise."
Campaign for Smash 4.
Yeah, it's your fault. Damn, I would kill for another Smash Run mode. God, I love that mode.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, that was. I think we should wrap it up there, folks. We had a pretty good episode today. We hit over an hour and 16 minutes. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up right now. Thank you so much for watching and listening to the DKM Podcast. If you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter. And if you guys know, you can watch us or listen to us on YouTube. Listen to us on any streaming services like Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. And if you haven't yet, feel free to join our Discord server. We'd love to have you in our little community. All links are down below in the video description or in the description of wherever you're listening to. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you have a good one. Stay safe and take care. Until next time. See ya.